Sharanda Almeida. I'll just introduce myself. I'm the director of the Launching Institute, and together we're both working on taking the lead with this racial equity pledge. So in a moment, Tiana is going to review the goals and kind of our norms. This is actually the second time we're doing this session, which is really exciting to see how many folks are joining us today. So with that, I don't know, Tiana, is it safe?
Yes. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Racial Equity Pledge info session. So during this session, we're hoping that you will learn how to sign the pledge, what resources are available, and any information on next steps and rollout activities. So again, we have folks in the chat saying their name, organization, and where they're coming in from. We have a range of folks today, which is awesome to see. Shauna wants to share her screen. We're just going to do some housekeeping, so you can feel free to keep your camera on or off. This session is recorded, and please keep yourself muted if you are not speaking. Be excellent. And next slide, please. So we are going to go over some community norms. So the first one is the growth zone. So just a willingness and curiosity to learn and grow. So stepping out of your comfort zone, and then accept a lack of closure. So you may be leaving with more questions than answers today, and that is perfectly fine. That's normal. So this work is a journey, and there's always more to learn and grow from. So just keep an eye out for any seeds of questions, thoughts, and ideas that come to mind today. And then the third is step up, step back. So if you're a person who's usually quiet, feel free to step up and speak. And also if you're someone who enjoys sharing like myself, just make sure that you're making space for others. And lastly, listen deeply. So during our conversation in our session today, just make sure that you're listening for an understanding and not to prepare for a rebuttal. So just acknowledge what you've heard before you go on to make another point. I'm going to pass it to Sharonda before moving on, just to highlight why this work is important.
Nice to see folks. So I just wanted to take a moment to let you all know why we're doing this work and this journey. It's not new. It started several years ago for MACDC. Even in our last strategic plan, we really started thinking about how we're integrating racial equity with our work. For many years, I've been running the Alliance for Racial Equity. And that's a coalition that's really now evolved to support the work of this pledge of our members. But it's been a value of ours. So we're going to talk more about the details around how this particular pledge emerged through our membership. But it's something that MACDC is committed to, and that MACDC as an organization has also signed on to. As a signing organization. So the MACDC board is also thinking about steps that MACDC takes. So we are with you on this journey. We're doing the same things that we're asking our members to do, and reflecting about our work and how we move forward to become more inclusive and more, explore racial equity and what that means for your organization and your community. It's going to look different, but we're really excited that you're taking this step with us. And I often compare things to yoga, which is a practice, but you can think about something in your life that's a practice, and racial equity is a practice. So we're going to do this together. You're going to see how the sausage is made. We're very transparent. We want to communicate with you guys throughout this process. This was brought to us by members, for members, and we're doing it with our members. So, we are encouraging people to join us along the way, and to share what you're learning, and to help us grow. We're not claiming that we know the right way to do this, but we're going to try to figure out how we can tackle this together. So enough of my talking. I want to just turn it over to actually Tiana, right?
Yes.
We didn't do the level there. So one of the ways we really want to, before I turn it over to Tiana, one of the ways we ground this work, and we have for a while, is in thinking about it in terms of the 4 levels of racism. So that we're really clear about what it means when we're addressing racial equity. So Tiana is going to just review those 4 areas for us quickly, so we have a level starting place for this conversation.
Yes. So, in the four levels of racism, the first is internalized racism, which lies within individuals. Thank you, Shronda. The second is interpersonal racism, which is personally mediated. So, it occurs between individuals, usually in conversation. Then there's institutional racism, which occurs within institutions and systems of power. And lastly, structural racism. It's a racial bias amongst institutions and across society. So we really want you to ground our conversation within these four levels. And like Sharonda said, just understanding how we could address racial equity and move forward with our progress with this as a foundation. I'm going to pass it back to Sharonda.
The goal of this is that this video can serve as a resource for our members, and give them a chance to understand the pledge if they're not able to join this call. So if you could please put in the chat some of the things that came up for you. And we're going to move on, but I'd love to hear if there were any things that you guys are doing that you're comfortable sharing. If you could put those in the chat, because this is always a great resource for other folks doing this work. And with that, Tiana, could you talk a little bit about the pledge?
Yes, if you don't mind sharing your screen. Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is highlighting our adopters. So we do have quite a few CDCs who have adopted the Racial Equity Pledge, which is amazing. Yep. So we have 18 folks. So I'm going to read them off just so everyone's aware. We have Asian CDC, Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, Dorchester Bay, Fenway CDC, Inquilinos Boricuas en Acción, MACDC, Maine South CDC, Metro West Collaborative, NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, New View, Nuestra, Pittsfield Economic Revitalization Corporation, Revitalize, the Neighborhood Developers, Urban Edge, Valley CDC, Watch CDC, and Worcester Common Ground CDC. So as you can see, we have 18 folks who have adopted and signed the pledge. So that is excellent. We're hoping that each of you on this call are able to join us. And with that, I'm going to give an overview of the pledge process. Just one more back. Thank you. So just a little context. So the organizers peer group developed a racial equity pledge for MACDC to ask its members to sign on. As many of you may know, the pledge was further developed by a Racial Equity Advisory Committee that was composed of MACDC staff, MACDC board members, and CDC organizers. And we also partnered with All ACEs Inc., which is a racial equity consulting group. And the Racial Equity Advisory Committee finalized the pledge, and it was approved by the MACDC board. And as many of you know, the pledge was officially launched at MACDC's annual meeting on November 18th, 2021. And so I do want to review. There are 4 areas of the pledge that we're going to be covering today, just as an overview. Next slide, please. So the first area that the Racial Equity Pledge covers is root causes. And so there's a pledge where you are signing on to the values that are presented, and each value is in bold under root causes. I will be reading that out, but I just wanted to emphasize that the pledge is essentially 2 parts. So you're signing on to values and committing to values, and the other half is strategic actions as well. So what I'm going to be covering is our suggested strategic actions within the 4 areas of the pledge. So the first area is root causes, and the first value that you'd be signing and committing to is we commit to learning and addressing the different levels of racism so we can take action to dismantle those inequities. And so some of our suggested strategic actions is holding regular quarterly or annual anti-racist trainings for both staff and board members. You could also regularly read or review materials to enhance individual understanding of DEI concepts. And so these are suggested. So if something works better for your organization, we are suggesting that you do what feels right for you. So these are just suggestions. And I'm going to pass it to Sharonda for the next area.
And the second area looks at staffing within the organization. So the pledge is, we believe that our staff should be diverse, equitable, inclusive, and representative of the communities that we serve. And some ways that we can do that, or ensure that we're doing that within our work, is looking at the data on our communities, updating job descriptions and hiring processes so they're more equitable, providing professional development and mentoring opportunities for our staff to have advancement within the organization, and also having diverse and inclusive leadership throughout the organization. In addition, there's a few other tips around like salary range best practices, and also looking at who our vendors and suppliers are, who are giving our money. So these are just a sampling of ways that you can think about taking action steps in the second area of staff representation.
So the third area of the pledge is representation in the board. So that value is, we believe that our board should be diverse, equitable, inclusive, and representative of the communities we serve. Again, some of our suggested strategic actions in this area is setting specific goals for diversity and inclusion on the board and building up a pipeline of potential board members to achieve those goals over time. And there's also a suggestion of recruiting tenants, residents, and other community members to serve on the board and providing them with adequate training and support to ensure their full participation and avoid tokenism.
And representation in our work is the next area. We believe in authentic representation in our policies, programs, and services. And some ways that we can do that is having a racial equity checklist, being intentional, really, engaging a diverse group of community members, not doing this alone. You know, this is something that really requires relationships to address, and ensuring that our community members have a voice. You know, the C in CDC, making sure that we have that strong connection and relationship within our community. And the last area for us, please, Tiana. Oh, was that the last area?
Yes.
That was the last area. So I'd like to stop sharing here, because one of the things we wanted to do on the call today was to allow some of the folks who have joined us that have from organizations that have already signed the pledge, just to share a little bit about why they joined and some of the things that kind of led them to sign the pledge. So this is a way for you to kind of let folks know who haven't started the process yet, just a little bit of some highlights for your organization around joining the pledge. So is there someone who would like to speak?
I can speak. New View Communities. So I'm Meredith Garrity. I'm a program officer at New View Communities. New View signed the pledge. We were one of the not the pioneers, but we were one of the early adopters.
Yeah.
And the board really drove our decision. We bring a lot of we have a very active board. We have a diverse board, and we bring a lot of the decisions to the board, and it was just unanimous. The board just thought that it was important. And there was discussion about, because just like any organization, we have a lot of stuff to do, too much stuff to do, not enough time to do it, not enough people to do it. And there was some hesitation on the part of staff because feeling that pressure that if we were going to do it, we didn't want to just, sign it and have it be just a symbolic. We wanted to really actually do it. And we expressed that concern to the board, but the board said, it doesn't matter, like this is important. This is like one of the most important things we can do. And so if there's too many competing priorities, like this needs to be a priority, and that message came through loud and clear.
Wow. Great. Thank you so much, Meredith, for sharing a little bit of the process that NewView took. I appreciate that, board. And then this is something that we do know that some boards have been having these conversations. For some boards, it's new. Sometimes the staff has been having it and not the board. So every organization is different. Is there someone else who would like to share a little bit about why they decided to join on to the pledge with us, and maybe a little bit about their process?
I can share.
Oh, great. Thanks, Brianna.
So I'm Brianna, I'm from MACDC. I'm the campaign and communications coordinator there. And we decided to sign the pledge because it just co-aligned with our missions and our values and what we stand for as an organization. So it was just kind of like a no-brainer for us to implement this pledge. We're still kind of tailoring it to make it our own to the organization and to our community. But it's been exciting, and our board was on board with it. And yeah, we've been working to kind of make it our own.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And then I see one more hand. Janet, love to hear from you.
Hi, I am a board member for Worcester Common Ground, and this came across the meeting just a few weeks ago. And I was really excited about it. One of the things I liked about it is it put together a lot of principles and ideas that we have thought about over the last 20 years. Everybody's thought about it, everybody's talked about it, but this was actually a plan that was put together that could be adaptable, that could be used and can be talked about. So I, as long as my other board members thought that this would be great to get on board, we at Worcester Common Ground have already started in terms of making our board members diverse, encouraging, and inclusive, as well as working at the staff too. So this was a win-win-win for us. There was no hesitation, and now it's just a matter of getting the plan and adapting it within our organization. And we have a lot of support among our staff members too, which we have one with us now on this call. So that's why I just wanted to chime in from my point as a board member point of view what this meant.
Thank you so much, Janet. Yeah, it's great to hear board members active in the process, and we're going to also provide opportunities for board members to meet other board members, talk about this work, and make connections. So more of that later. Thank you for all the folks that did share. You can continue to use the chat if you want to share something else, but I do want to let the folks know at this point who, I think this is our line in the sand, right, Tiana? The folks who have signed on already, the adopters, we have an adopters meeting for you guys next week on the 9th. And there was a little bit of confusion about these two meetings. And this meeting is really to recruit people to sign on to the pledge. So I'm really glad that you guys shared, and you're more than welcome to stay the rest of the hour. But we just wanted to let you know that some of this might be a repeat, some of it might not. So you can feel free to stay with us, or you can have, you can jump off and do something else, and we'll see you on the 9th. But with that, Tiana, I think we're up to you, and I should probably be sharing my screen again, right?
I'm going to actually share the webpage. So
Perfect.
We do have an online resource. I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me one moment. Is everyone able to view my screen? Just a thumbs up. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So we do have an online resource on MACDC's webpage. It's a racial equity webpage. It's a live webpage. We are looking to continuously add to this webpage as well. And it's meant to support you if you have signed and if you have not signed as well. So I do want to run through some of the resources that we have on this webpage. So first, you will actually find a full PDF version of the pledge. Just want to click around and show you. So this is the full pledge. It's a PDF version. You could find that on the web page. We also have a racial equity pledge process video that highlights the development of the pledge from its beginning to its current version. And we do suggest sharing this video with the board prior or at the board meeting for the discussion of the pledge, just to give the board some context. You could share this with your staff as well to provide some context on the pledge. And that is a YouTube video, so you could click on that and it'll bring you straight to it. We also have a pledge PowerPoint slide. I'm just going to click on that as well. So we're looking to use this if you want to present at a board meeting. It might be a little bit more user friendly if you're looking to present the full pledge at your board meeting. So this has all of the information as the full pledge as well. Okay. So that is meant to be a resource for you. We also have a glossary, so starting Race Talk glossary. And this has racial equity terms to really set the foundation and create common language for racial equity centered conversations. So this is something that you could share with your board, with your staff. If you want to refer back to it, this is something that could be of use to you. Okay, and this was developed by the Alliance for Racial Equity as well, just to highlight that. So again, just some terms for racial equity centered conversations. And they also have suggested group norms to use when you are having racial equity centered conversations. We also have a starting Race Talk resource list. And this resource list has websites and guides for your use. So this is to help you develop the language, the tools, and the tactics to start productive conversations about race in your organization and in your communities. So if you're looking for some resources, feel free to go to our website and you could be linked to, for example, we have policy link, resource and tools, a racial equity resource guide, Awake to Woke work, equity conversation guides for young leaders and partners. And we also have a racial equity and inclusion action guide. So if you're looking for something to get the conversation started or to keep the conversation going, please refer to this. We also have a sample board discussion agenda. And this agenda is to offer guidance on having the conversation. So it's agenda design when bringing the racial equity pledge to your board. So we have some items on preparation. This is all a suggestion. So a sample agenda, just opening with context, offering ground rules and group agreements, some suggested norms, and then also presenting the racial equity pledge, time for a Q&A, and follow-up. So if you're looking to bring the pledge to your board and you're unsure of how to design the agenda or how to start the conversation, please refer to this sample agenda just to get you started and keep you grounded. And we also have a step-by-step for adopting and signing on to the pledge. So step one is bringing the pledge to your board. Again, this document's available on the webpage if you're looking for it, showing the process video, presenting the board using the sample agenda as a guide, and then also calling for a board vote. So discuss and decide your action steps as well. So again, sometimes this could be two separate things. So it's important to know that once you sign on to the pledge, you do still have time to talk about the strategic actions and your implementation process as well. So not everything has to be done all at once. It is a journey and it's a process, as Sharonda has mentioned. So just think about that when you're bringing it to the board and you're having this discussion. So this step-by-step walks you through the full process. And then the last step is reporting back to Sharonda, just letting her know once your board has voted and once you've committed to the racial equity pledge, and she will email back any further information for next steps. So this was just a look at our racial equity webpage. And again, we also have our adopters here. Does anyone have any questions about the web page? I'm going to stop sharing. I also could send this link in the chat if you haven't yet gone to the web page. I'm going to put the web page link in the chat.
Deanna, what was that that list under that you just showed? What category was that under on the website, just so I can find it again?
Was it the step-by-step?
Step by step, yeah.
Yep, so that's right on the main page. So once you navigate to the racial equity pledge page, you just scroll down a bit and it's on the main page.
Sorry, I muted myself. It says step by step then.
Yep.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, we do have a poll for everyone, so I'm going to,
Actually, before you do
Yep.
that, Tiana, I was wondering, should we talk a little bit about once people sign the communications and so forth? Is that? I was taking attendance. I want to make
Mhm.
sure I'm not being repetitive. Can I talk a little bit about that?
yeah, of course.
So once people sign on and you reported back to me that your board has adopted the pledge, we will send you the official link just so that it's official and it's more than an email. So you're just, as the executive director, the leader of the organization, you will sign on. And then you will think about who will be a contact person so that they can be in the network of adopters. And that could be more than one person. We like for the leadership to be continued involved, but we understand if like other folks are also involved. We will have regular adopters meetings where those folks can meet. And one of the first things we're going to do with the present adopters is supply them a badge for their website that says that you've adopted. So yes, we're taking our inspiration from the United Way, but a lot of folks like to do that. But part of it is really about accountability, which I've already heard people talk about today. And I think if we're not talking about the work that we're doing is one way to keep us accountable. That keeps us accountable to, ourselves. So you're within your organization, you're like stating that this is part of what we're doing. It's a value. We're committed to doing this. And it's a 2-year campaign. So during that, updating your board, your staff, and your community around the work that you're doing, your accomplishments, and maybe even your challenges that you're trying to address, because it's not easy work. So MACDC is going to do that. We just showed you the resource page for you guys, but we also are going to need to talk about how we're doing this work, MACDC, with our board and so forth. So that's the next step. Is after you sign on, you say you sign on, and then as you're thinking about these action steps, really, thinking about how you can also involve your larger community in this process. So before we do next steps, we do have a little bit of a poll.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have Tiana lead us through that poll, and then we'll talk about, what happens after this. Get you guys excited about what happens once you do sign on. Tiana.
Yep, so I just sent the poll link in the chat. Should take you about a minute to fill it out. That would be excellent. If anyone's having any trouble, let me know and I could resend the link in the chat. So once you fill it out, we are going to present the results. So I'm excited to just see where everyone's at.
So filling this out, I'll just fill the void with chatter. I just wanted to let folks know that we will, through the Melting Institute, be offering different training opportunities for our members. They're obviously open to all our members, regardless if they sign a pledge or not. We'll provide some subsidized offerings to trainings, including in March and May. We have subsidized slots to attend the Racial Equity Institute trainings. And if you just Google them, Racial Equity Institute, they have a model that's called the groundwater approach to understanding structural racism that we think is a very sound model. You could also just Google groundwater approach and you'll find them. So we have secured some slots there for our members to encourage learning of root causes, which is the first area of the pledge. And we'll be offering more opportunities just for MACDC members and their board members. So they would need to articulate, I'm a board member of this organization, for this learning throughout this process. So with that, after filling that space, are we almost done, you think, with the poll?
We're going to have Neha share the results. Just give her a moment to pull those up and she's going to share her screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share the results now. Tiana, if you want to go through them as I'm scrolling.
So the first question we asked is, will you bring the pledge to your board for adoption? A majority of the folks on the call said yes. A few folks said neither, which is pretty good turnout. The other thing is we have everyone understands how to sign and adopt the pledge, which is excellent. So again, bringing the pledge to your board, voting on this. Once you adopt it, just email Sharonda. She will email back with any next steps and an official sign-on link, and we will keep you in the loop moving forward with our opportunities that we're going to be offering to folks as well. So that's great. You could scroll down a bit more. So do you understand what resources are available? So it looks like everyone understands, which is excellent. So using that Racial Equity Pledge webpage to your advantage, whether you have any questions or looking for any inspiration, feel free to refer back to that. And that's in the chat, linked in the chat as well. And are you and your organization ready to prepare for this racial equity journey? We have some different answers here, and that's okay because everyone's in different places in this work, but it's great to see that majority of folks are ready to take on this journey. And if you're not, there's always time to get there as well. So we're here to support you and go on this journey along with folks. Then if you want to scroll down a bit, thank you. So understanding the next step. So the first step is signing on and adopting, having these conversations, officially signing on, and then MACDC and the Milking Institute will be offering a range of opportunities that we'll be talking about next once you have officially adopted the pledge. So this is excellent. I appreciate the additional comments and thoughts as well. Thank you, Neha. I'm going to pass it to Sharonda for next steps.
Thank you, Tiana. So our poll is, just taking the temperature, and, we have a vast membership. So like many things, folks are in different places, but we definitely are here for people who are interested in joining. If you still have questions, we're also here. The first time you're hearing about it, and you're like, oh, so we're available. We're looking at this as a 2-year campaign. And we're really encouraging a lot of folks to sign on this spring, specifically because we'd like to really run this as a campaign. And we had folks that were early adopters sign on back in like October and November, and it's February 1st. So this stuff takes a while, but we actually started this conversation right after the summer of 2020, I think, right? So
yes,
for us, it's been years. So just like, can we move this along? So there's folks who have really kind of initiated this that are like, but we're recognizing it takes folks time. So we're not saying that you have to sign on in the next month, but we would like for you to consider how this might work with your organization, engage us. Joe has spoken at a couple of board meetings. We've provided all these different tools. So, and there's other folks that have done it that you can connect with. So all of that is there for you. And I just wanted to add that coming up for folks over this next 2-year period is we'll roll out different activities, including, I guess we're sharing this. Okay, I'll do the first couple of bullets. How about that, Tiana? So I mentioned the training, so that's another opportunity. Trainings, really understanding the root causes is really important in this work, especially if you're new to this work. That's a great place to start. Whether or not you sign the pledge, it's great to take these upcoming trainings. We'll also do webinars for the folks that have adopted, and we'll do other webinars that are like roundtables on specific topics, how to hire a consultant or thinking about different areas. What is the racial equity? So we're going to have some roundtables where peers can share best practices. You guys can bring questions. And then I'll stop at ongoing. Oh, the webinars. We'll also have ongoing accountability through those webinars. That's been a big topic of conversation, not to just sign on to something to sign on to it, but just really figuring out how we're doing the work. So we hope to engage with you all through that. Tiana, you want to talk a little bit about the communication next steps and the cohort?
Yep. So once you have adopted the pledge, we do have a communications plan and some information for next steps. So, how to communicate this ongoing implementation process between your staff, between your board, and with your community as well. So, that will be made available to you once you have adopted and signed the pledge. We are going to be still communicating our ongoing opportunities. As Sharonda mentioned, we have some trainings. We're going to be gearing up some webinars as well. So those communications will be happening, on a regular basis, just to make sure that everyone is moving along in their process. We're also looking to have, one of our goals is to have 6 members a month sign and adopt the pledge. We are doing good so far, which is great. As you know, we have 18 organizations who have signed on and adopted already. So we're just looking forward to moving that along. And I'm going to pass it to Sharonda just to talk more about our upcoming cohort model and our ongoing support with that.
So one of the things that we wanted to do to support our members in coming up with really smart, tangible, effective action steps for their organization was to bring on Promoting Good, which is an organization, consultants based actually in the Worcester area that we've done some work with through the Mel King Institute. And we are going to be providing an opportunity for organizational cohorts to participate in 3 sessions to develop a series of goals, racial equity goals for their organization. So some folks can do it on their own. Some folks are strategic planning, and that easily translates into this plan. Other folks just like, I don't know where to start. So if you're one of those folks, then this cohort model is for you. There'll be 3 meetings where 3 weeks apart, where the executive director with 1 or 2 other staff members and or board member come to these sessions, think about their organization, probably have a little homework. And then in the end of those 3 sessions, they'll have their action plan that they'll work on for the next year. And that cohort will meet every 6 months to kind of check in on how you're doing, because we want to track this work and support this work. So for those people that want to take a deeper dive into this, that will be made available through the Mel King Institute just for MACDC members to do this work and come up with racial equity action plans. So that'll be coming this spring. So this is the reason why we're trying to get folks signed on quickly and really thinking about this work and how they want to engage. Did I hit everything? Oh, and the other support is we're here for other support. We're always available if there's ideas that people have for things that we should offer staff. We're very willing to offer different convenings so that you can discuss with your peers best practices, as well as bring in different consultants. And we're excited that we recently got some funding from JP Morgan Chase to actually do this work. And that's going to support some of this for this year and next year throughout the campaign. So with that, I'm noting the time and I want to respect it. I wanted to just stop and see what questions you might have or comments. Just want to hear a little bit from you guys, because we've been shoving a lot of stuff at you. So what are you guys thinking?
A question, Sharonda, around training. So, I know Mel King has been providing, great trainings, but, when you're talking about training all of your staff and all of your board members on a very regular basis, it's not always really easy for organizations to, I know it's not very expensive, but when you're counting everyone, the cost does go up a little higher. And also because of timing, we're not always able to train everybody at the same time. So is there any local organization that can travel to, different cities and different organizations and, provide these trainings in a less expensive ways? Because I was part of an anti-racism training recently, and it costs us about $15,000. So anti-racism trainings are very, very expensive. So I just want to hear, what organizations are doing and how they're able to afford trainings, very on a regular basis for the future.
Yeah, is there anyone that wants to answer that? I mean, I'm not I'd want to turn it over to organizations on this call first before I answer. So are there other folks that are dealing with ongoing training, and how have they dealt with that? Well, I would say that is the challenge. A lot of times folks will specifically fundraise around this area to cover it. But I would think a combination of, I mean, I do think it's hard to like train an entire organization and board like annually. So thinking about what are some other ways you can phase in the learning, but making sure that folks have access to the same analysis or approach, so that there's that common ground is probably the most important. And then I would just add that sometimes we have scholarships available as well. And that would be interesting to think about. We've done it a lot for individuals, but it would be interesting to make that a little more available for our members for, like, for instance, board training. That's just a new idea I just had. So thank you for that one. But was there a hand up? No. So yeah, ongoing conversation. We do recognize that the cost of training is expensive and you want it to be quality training. We would hate for our members to get, burned by an experience that kind of causes more harm than moving people forward, which is something else we need to be careful of. So I do think that's something we'll take back and just figure out what are some ways that we can do that. I've been sharing, and I don't know if there's a link on the webpage, there might be, the Boston Foundation has a list of diversity consultants. So that's a resource for different trainings. And then perhaps as we do more of this work, we can see, and I'm always sharing, but we can share if there's like particular more economical and effective ways to do like groups of people in an organization. So I'd like to just thank my team for helping me today. Thanks, Neha, for behind the scenes. And Tiana, I'm going to turn it over to you for our closing.
Thank you. I also want to thank my team. I appreciate all of the work. I also want to thank everyone on this call for your interest and dedication in this racial equity journey and in this work. So we're very excited to have all of you on the call and with us as we all together move forward in this work. It's important that we are supporting each other, that we're continuously having dialogue and conversations. So we really appreciate this. Again, just use the website as a resource. Sharonda and I are also a resource for any questions, thoughts. This is an ongoing thing. We're here to keep each other accountable as well. So that's something that we're looking forward to doing as a collective. And also just, making sure that you are, again, just if you have any questions, reaching out as well and not feeling lost. And we're very excited to be offering some upcoming opportunities with the webinars, the cohorts, the trainings, and also getting folks together in a roundtable style. That way you're connecting with your peers throughout this process. So we appreciate your time, your energy, and your effort in this work. Hope everyone has a great rest of their week. And again, we're a resource. Check out the webpage, and we're looking forward to getting that email that you've signed on. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.